Most people are waiting to feel ready. Waiting until the path is clear, the risk is minimal, the outcome is predictable. And while they're waiting, someone else made the call at 70% and is already 6 months into the feedback loop. Jeff Bezos built a decision-making rule around this. He calls it the 70% threshold. If you have roughly 70% of the information you wish you had, you act. You don't wait for 100%. You can't afford to. Peter Hollins unpacks the science behind why this works in Self-Discipline on Autopilot, and why hesitation isn't caution, it's just a different kind of risk.
The 70% rule is a great trick to help you shift your mindset and help you act even when you're feeling uncertain, scared, or unwilling. It's easy to remember. Agree with yourself that you will act when you're 70% sure instead of 100% sure. This rule was purportedly created by Jeff Bezos, who undoubtedly used it to help him achieve escape velocity out of a state of fear and indecision and get on the path of actually making choices, receiving feedback, and adjusting along the way. Sometimes procrastination is a sign of a bigger life problem and an overall attitude of hesitation and avoidance. Procrastination can make us overly cautious or fearful when it comes to making big decisions, including those that are important for our transformation and development. For example, you want to pitch a book idea to an agent, but you're not sure. You don't feel 100% confident in the idea, so you pull back until you feel more ready. The 70% rule turns this around. Instead, simply ask yourself, am I 70% sure I want to do this whenever you procrastinate? Variations include, am I 70% willing? I'm scared, but am I 70% brave? Do I have 70% of what it takes to do this? If the answer is yes, then do it. In other words, you're lowering the threshold for taking action. You don't have to be 100% on board, but 70% is enough to get going. Many procrastinators are secret perfectionists because they don't want to embark on a mission unless they're perfectly inspired, perfectly organized, and have a fail-proof, crystal-clear plan to get there seamlessly, after which everyone is waiting at the finish line applauding. If they can't have all this, they don't even want to bother, right? But perfectionism of this kind can be nothing more than an excuse. It mostly comes down to 1, fear, 2, not having faith in your abilities. If we judge the task as very difficult or unpleasant, and we lack faith in our abilities to rise to that challenge, then we may unconsciously push away the anxiety of it all by procrastinating. That's bad for self-discipline. Our minds might have told us that the task is super difficult and that we are completely, utterly helpless in the face of it. But our minds could be wrong. This is where the 70% comes in and alters our perspective. Let's say you use this rule. What does that look like? Imagine you have to make a cold call to someone and ask for details about funding an important project. You're terrified. You hate speaking to strangers on the phone. You feel like you're socially awkward at the best of times, and you're petrified it'll be an uncomfortable call that ends in embarrassing rejection for you. The worst thing is that you're not a pro at this and are worried they're going to discover you're missing information, have the wrong data, or have completed the wrong forms. Who wouldn't procrastinate on this task, right? Maybe you decide to do more research on the problem first and prepare a bit more. But if you do procrastinate, you're drawing out the anxiety and excruciating anticipation that what if feeling only makes you feel bad, and you're making it last as long as possible. Instead, if you just act, even though you're scared, then you're in a new position. You get to see what happens and respond to that rather than your imagination's worth hypotheticals. In other words, they could say yes, or they could say no, or perhaps they could say maybe in a few different ways. But either way, you'll have new information on which to act. You'll be on the path toward completing this goal rather than standing frightened at the start, unable to get going. Or, according to Bezos, most decisions should probably be made with somewhere around 70% of the information you wish you had. If you wait for 90% in most cases, you're probably being slow. Plus, either way, you need to be good at quickly recognizing and correcting bad decisions. If you're good at course correcting, being wrong may be less costly than you think, whereas being slow is going to be expensive for sure. If you're not 100% sure about the decision you're about to make, don't worry, few people ever are. But by acting, you expose yourself to more information as you go. It's the same with fear. You may act when you only have 70% faith in yourself, but as you go, you grow more confident in your abilities. As we said in an earlier chapter, inspiration doesn't cause action. Action causes inspiration. It's a myth that we're only allowed to act when we're in a position of 100% certainty or fearlessness. If you make your phone call when you only feel 70% ready, a few possibilities will emerge. 1. The person on the phone says no and tells you why. It's disappointing, but now you know what to do next. Fix the thing standing in the way. 2. The person on the phone says yes, in which case, well done. You got the outcome you wanted without wasting too much time. 3. The person on the phone gives some other in-between answer. Let's say they ask you to wait for someone else to call you back. Again, it's disappointing, but at least you're getting somewhere. Some people want to be invulnerable. They only want to act when they're absolutely sure that the outcome will be in their favor. They don't speak up unless they're 100% confident in what they're talking about, and they don't attempt something until they feel like they're already experts in it. While this mentality might have worked in school, it doesn't translate so well in real life. That's because in many ways, we learn by doing. If you're unsure, sometimes the only way to get surer is to act and see what happens. Let go of the idea of a black and white outcome. You can always start and adjust as you go. You're very seldom committed to one course of action that you cannot change. Starting a new job, relationship, or university course is a big decision to make, but nothing that can't be reversed or tweaked after the fact. Consider this. Person A is hemming and hawing about trying the new XYZ strategy with their business because they're worried about the risks. They hang back and don't take the leap, instead preferring to research and deliberate a little longer. This research phase lasts a year. Person B has a similar business and is facing the same decision. They're not sure either, but they're 70% sure. Within 2 weeks, they take the leap and try XYZ. The whole thing fails in a big way. It takes 3 months for the business to stabilize again. But this time, person B knows what went wrong and why. They try again, this time all the wiser. It's the XYZ strategy, but with a twist. In a year's time, person B's business is making impressive strides. And person A? They've deliberated for a year and finally feel ready to take the plunge. They try the XYZ strategy, the one that person B already knows doesn't work. At the 2 or 3 year mark, which company do you think will be in a better position? And who has a richer, more sophisticated understanding of their business, person A or person B? As you can see, the irony is that when we are afraid of engaging with uncertainty, we actually prevent ourselves from gaining more knowledge because we shy away from the experience of trial and error. We create the thing we think we're avoiding. Action has costs, but so does procrastinating. And the thing it costs, time, is impossible to replace. Realize that action is a risk, but it's also something else. A chance to test hypotheses, try things out, and learn something new. Let's take this all back to self-discipline and procrastination. The fear of making mistakes. Yes, we procrastinate because we're lazy and want instant gratification, but there could be additional reasons. We're unwilling to do it wrong. We're afraid of starting down a course that we don't want to continue on. We're focused on what others will think about it. We're embarrassed by our inadequacies. Basically, we've told ourselves that any outcome other than complete success is intolerable. It's perfectionism. We don't want to be beginners, awkwardly trying something new while others look on. We want to be in-control experts who act cool, calm, and confident. Except the experts got that way by being willing to look foolish every once in a while. Tell yourself the potential reward of success is almost always greater than the potential cost of failing. We tend to overemphasize how bad it would be to fail, make a mistake, or take a wrong turn. We don't see that when we make a mistake, we actually gain something because we learn how not to do it in the future. We gain experience, we gain confidence. We teach ourselves that we can try, fail, and continue on without the world ending. These are lessons you don't learn if you never take the leap and act. You already know that your brain is programmed for procrastination, for erring on the side of caution, and for letting fear be in the driver's seat. But you don't have to go along with that. You can see your fear of failure for what it is, still feel that fear, and yet consciously choose that it won't be in control of you and that you will act anyway. You may learn that taking action is pretty freeing, whatever the outcome. You get an enormous sense of courage from grabbing hold of your own autonomy and choosing for yourself. This is valuable, even if it doesn't pan out like you hoped. You still exercised your own free will, and that's a good feeling. Today, make a plan to deliberately fail at something. Seek out failure. It sounds counterintuitive, but challenge yourself. For example, ask out someone you know will say no. Run the idea of a raise past your boss, or apply for a job you don't have much hope of getting. Why? Well, try it yourself and see what happens. Instead of saying, "I wonder what could go wrong," genuinely become curious about the outcome, and if it does go wrong, so what? Say, "I wonder why it went wrong. I wonder what I can learn from it." One attitude is passive and fearful, the other curious, conscious, and self-directing. One attitude will keep you trapped in a prison of fear and doubt. The other will accumulate and strengthen the more action you take. There are many, many things in life that you don't have to do. Nobody's going to come and convince you to do things like upskill, look for a better job, leave a subpar relationship, or indeed make any important life change. Sadly, this makes it all the more tempting to put it off until tomorrow.
Certainty is a feeling, not a threshold. Waiting until it arrives isn't prudence. It's procrastination with better branding. The 70% rule isn't about recklessness. It's about recognizing that the last 30% of information only becomes available after you act. Bezos didn't build Amazon by waiting to feel ready. Peter's point, and it's worth sitting with, is that decisive action is itself a discipline, one that compounds. Self-discipline on autopilot is linked in the description. We'll see you on the next one.